Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. We are talking Survivor, Millennials versus Gen X, and as Boys to Men would say, we've come to the end of the road. Andy, how you feeling now that we're here?
It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
How do I say goodbye?
I was about to drop I'll Make Love to You, and then I'm like, wait, no, huh? What are we doing here?
I know, yeah, it starts to get really awkward once you go into deeper lyrics or other songs.
But, instead of talking about this, 3-hour finale and this pretty good season, I think what people really want is our top 5 Boys to Men songs.
Oh, I'm sure that's going to be the first comment we get on this post when it goes up.
Absolutely. Why talk about Survivor in the Survivor podcast comments? Because frankly, what do these people have left? My God.
Well, let's talk about the winner. Because, we got a big chunk of his story tonight. It's a lot of the story that we'd seen about him for the rest of the season. But he was coming out there to win for his mom because it was the show he always watched with his mom. He almost went on the show with his mom, and he did it. He won for his mom. And then we cut to the reunion. We get the heartbreaking reveal that she passed away very, very shortly after Adam returned, and not a dry eye on the house.
No, I mean, it's hard to feel bad for a guy about the win when you get all of that. It's like, you know what? Sure, good for you. And legitimately, good for him. Legitimately touched by these things, not just in that way, like, oh, I should say that because otherwise it makes me a monster. And I think it also helps that, not like he beat anybody amazing. So yeah, good for him. He lived his dream, and the story was there all season long. For a while, I just wasn't sure if that meant anything. We get people coming on Survivor with different stories. Never one as sad as this, but I mean, Jenna Maraska was playing for her mom way back in All Stars. People are playing for their missing wombs and stuff like that. So it doesn't always translate into a winner story, but he did it, He went out there, was this the story? I do like that apparently he was possibly going to be picked with his mom a few seasons ago, more because that tells me Survivor didn't go out there and find a guy with a dying mom. They wanted him regardless, and yeah, it happened, and good for him.
Okay, so now, that story aside, let's talk about Adam's actual game. A lot of jurors were giving him credit for, playing the game. What, if anything, did you see in his game that you were like, man, that's impressive. The jury should definitely award that a 10-0 shutout.
Yeah, I'll say the thing that he did, and it's the whole ball game, nothing else really matters after that, is he got to the end against Ken and Hannah. And basically, that was it. That's all he needed to do. Now, what's interesting, of course, is he didn't really do that, right? And that's kind of the thing I'm struggling with in ranking, him as a winner or whatever, or just kind of adjusting to his win. I don't feel upset about it. I mean, of course, I don't feel upset about it from a human level, but even from a game level, because it's like, well, it's not like Hannah and Ken were good winners either. So if one of the three had to win, sure, okay, him. He's a perfectly cromulent winner in that respect. So that was the big thing. Be against two people who that jury were never going to vote for. And I think they weren't going to vote for him or them if they were against Sunday, if they were against Brett. I think Will might have beaten these two, just based on that jury and the way that they felt about these two people. But other than that, I am kind of struggling, other than just generic stuff. He was okay. He found those idols. He won a challenge. He built relationships with people. But it's I don't know, didn't most people build relationships with each other? I need to know something he did as opposed to what he wanted to do. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know how far along I can get along the path of, oh, he only won for talking about all the things he wanted to do, but failing at them, because, that's a major criticism against one of my favorite winners from a season. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, Sandra, that is her appeal in Heroes versus Villains, as she said, hey, listen, guys, I was willing to take out Russell with you. I told you I was going to do it. You didn't go for it, so I had to take my other option. I don't even feel like Adam gave an argument like that. I mean, the weird thing to me is Zeke's question was something along the lines of how everybody advanced the game and strategy. He didn't even bother with Ken because it was clear Ken had no answer to that. Adam claimed, I believe his strategy was something like he was going to go into the final 6 and he was going to have 3 targets that were bigger than him. If that was, and not bigger than him in the physical sense, but bigger targets. If that was his actual plan, does he realize how low the odds are that would work? I mean, that 3 targets left in the final 6 just gives you such a narrow window. Like, you really have to thread the needle. Like, if one of those people wins that final 4 immunity, you're screwed.
Yeah, what you need to do is find an idol, but then tell somebody about that idol, which then disrupts your plan to remove the biggest target, but also disrupts the other people's plan to vote out you. Like, that's kind of one of the major keys to Adam's win, was that Hannah was able to then go to David and Ken and say, we can't vote out Adam this round. That's how thin the margins were. And again, if it was his plan, okay, but it wasn't. And frankly, the other thing he was arguing in that final tribal council was that it wasn't. Was that I was trying to get out David here. I was trying to get out David there. And, old Hannah got in the way, with her going rogue.
Yeah, with her having her own ideas.
Yeah, and look, again, he told them what he wanted to hear, so bravo. And frankly, yeah, if we want to throw some praise, he was able to give the jury what they wanted. That said, he didn't win a single vote at final tribal council, so that can't even be like one of those things where like we praise Todd for his final tribal council performance. Those 10, at least 9 or 8 or probably all 10 of those people had already decided that they were not voting for Hannah and Ken. So it's like, I don't even, like, his arguments don't really even matter. Good for him for saying what the people wanted to hear, but even if that was your argument, I kept shields to get me to the end, that ain't advancing anything. That's what Todd said in his final tribal council, that he wanted to have people ahead of him and below him. That was what Tony was doing when he would, vote out Jeffra instead of Spencer. So, yeah.
That's what Jeremy did just 2 seasons ago.
And it's actually kind of interesting. The Sandra point that I just thought of is like, this is 2 seasons in a row where like people that we associate with, the people on our site, ourselves, pro Sandra people, have like advanced the arguments that the anti-Sandra people advance against the winners that we don't like as much. Like last year with Michelle, it was all that, right? It's like people were all like, juries are wrong. They voted for the wrong person. It's like, wait. That's what people say about Sandra. And then this year it's the same thing. It's like everything he tried, he failed at, and they voted for him for that. It's like, yeah, kind of exactly like Sandra. I will say a difference is that he, with the heroes and Sandra, her argument was, I tried to work with you all, but you wouldn't let me. That actually is not even the case here with Adam. He wasn't able to go to them and say, like, hey, if you guys would have just worked with me, things would have worked out for you. It's more like, hey, I wanted to do something, but I kept failing at it because of Hannah. So it's like you were actually outplayed and outmaneuvered then. And again,
within your own alliance.
Every time. Yeah. And that's fine. Again, what he did what he needed to do. Get to the end against Hannah and Ken. And after that, the moves are, who cares? It's just, it's annoying that he got respect for, gameplay when really it wasn't that. It was, more basic stuff. He was able to relate to these juries, this group of jury members. Jurors is the word I was trying to struggle with there.
There's the one.
Better than the 2 people he was up against. He says that these are the 2 people he wanted to go up against, and I believe him. For one, I think they were the 2 people that everybody wanted to go up against. But also, even in some of his actions and why he would do certain things is because I think he wanted to advance with these 2 eventually. But by his own admission, he wasn't the one that got him to these final 3. It was, Ken changing his mind. It was Hannah not voting out David when he wanted to. Like, he never, and I think that would be just that. If just once in this episode, Adam was able to determine the boot order after, actually, you know what? I guess he was the one that voted out Jay more than the others. Mm-hmm. So there's that.
Well, I mean, everybody did it.
But well, sure. I mean, we saw David thinking about Jay's proposal, right?
Right.
I don't know how seriously he was thinking about it, but in the edit, David was like, yeah, okay, maybe. And then, Hannah was a consistent maybe, which is not a thing. And Adam was just like, no, I will lose if that happens. No. So, maybe he actually, stopped David from overthinking it. So I'll give him credit there. But yeah, if he had been able to successfully get out David, I'd just feel better about this. But in the end, he went up against the two goats and he won. And that's pretty simple.
Yeah, I think to me his best move of the game was playing that idol for Hannah. Even though it ultimately proved unnecessary, I think it was still the right move at the time. Because he saved someone that he was hoping would be a loyal ally and someone that he could beat at the end. She apparently, quote unquote, went rogue at various points along the way to the end. But I mean, that's his best move. And, in a season where we're openly talking about resumes, that's fine as a move, but, what else you got from me, basically? I think it's funny because his game was based on a lot of social connections, the sort of things that, people complain that we can't see from when women win the game because they win the game with these social connections. Well, Adam just won the game with his social connections. And I mean, I don't even know that we saw those. I saw one with Jay, a weird kind of rivalry / connection. But tell me the other hardcore relationships that he had built.
Yeah, and I think what it is Adam was able to speak the language that the jury wanted to hear in a way that, frankly, they just didn't want to hear it from Hannah, and Ken couldn't, And so when faced with these three, you squint hard enough, and as you say, he has resume items. They might not be the strongest resume items, it's like, he didn't go to the best school, but he got to a school. So yeah, he had that idol move, and that's a resume moment. That's something people can look at, like, oh, look at him. He's playing the game. He's got it under a little more scrutiny. It's like, well, yeah, but actually Will outsmarted him and got him to waste an idol. Yeah, it's like, oh, wait, he won a challenge. Well, whoop-de-doo. Everyone won a challenge, right? Like, other than Hannah, who actually almost won a challenge.
Almost won it.
Yeah, and even there, he can talk a big game. Like, my whole plan was to make sure David didn't win. And I think that's legitimate, but at the same time, you were almost undone by the wind. So, yeah, and I think that's just it. And we saw throughout the season to the point where, you and I were making fun of him pretty hard in the middle. He did things and he knew to do things and he was able to talk strategy. He just wasn't particularly good at it, but that was enough because the two people he went against either weren't doing the things that these people wanted or were actually running opposed to them in Hannah's case, right?
Yeah, and I think he probably did have connections with the people that were voted out that we didn't see, but again, nothing about his game jumped out at me as like, man, the thing he did here or this particular relationship was, even with Jay who lost, I'm like, okay, he had clearly some sort of relationship with Sunday where it wasn't shown much on the show, but you could kind of tell that someone was feeding him information and you could assume it was Sunday. I don't feel like I had that same sort of thing with Adam. I feel like Hannah was his closest ally. And even she didn't always vote the way he wanted to.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were a matched pair. She just, she said, yeah, I'm going to vote with you when it's convenient for me, but it's not like we're some tight bond here.
I think what Adam was able to do in the relationships he was able to form eventually, because I do think he actually had some strained relationships in the middle part of this game, but he was able to talk to people about strategy and they would walk away from that conversation feeling, all right, okay, this guy's going to talk to me. He wants to do things, Maybe at the end he was all like, oh, what could I tried, man, but these two. And that's the thing. These two were the obstructions to everybody else. Because, yeah, if they tried to talk to Ken about strategy, they walked away incredibly frustrated. If they tried to talk to Hannah, either they walked away thinking that she was on their side and then she would blindside them later, or they were just like, oh, God, so befuddled. So, no, basically, I think for the longest time, everybody, what they would talk about is we need to get rid of David. And Adam would be like, yes, we need to get rid of David. And thus, that guy knows his strategy. That guy's playing the game. Whereas they talk to Ken or Hannah, well, Hannah would be like, oh, maybe, yeah. And Ken would be like, no, I will never vote out Adam, or for David. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Because it's not like they're actually trying to sympathize and look through it from his perspective or anything. So that enough made it, Adam, this guy understands the game. Ken doesn't know anything about Survivor. He isn't even a fan like us. So I think Adam was able to be the proxy for them that they wanted. And I think that's what happens with juries more often than not. It's not even just like, who's the person they like best or who's the person that didn't betray them. It's, who is me? And for somebody like Zeke, for somebody like even Chris, Brett, they're big game players or big Survivor fans, I should say. Adam was them. He was the guy that was trying to do the things. He was the one that would talk straight up with them about what he was going to do. Jay, same deal. He was the guy that was playing Survivor that they recognized, that would do that was trying to do the things that they were trying to do. And I think this happens a lot in Survivor. It's just like, which one of them is me? So you go to, even like Samoa, Natalie's the religious one, just like everybody, a lot, the majority of that jury. You look at Cambodia and Jeremy, of those three, who's more like Andrew Savage and Joe and Kelly Wigglesworth and stuff? It's Jeremy.
Cass.
Yeah. And if it wasn't, and what's interesting about that season is they would have voted for Kimmy. They would have voted for Keith. It sounded like that's who they were cheering for in Ponderosa. Who's the kind of the older, mature, responsible, straight up kind of guy. And that's what that jury was like. So I think that's the key. And that's what Adam was able to do is, of those three people, he felt most like them. He's the one that understood Survivor and wanted to play it that way. Even if, he actually wasn't even that good at it.
Well, let's talk about the jury for a second, because I don't know. Hannah has made some allegations that, her game wasn't properly appreciated by the jury because she's a woman, her flipping was seen as flipping versus strategy. I think part of the issue there is that, look at that jury. It was all guys that had voted out women first. Yep. I think you have to know that's an uphill battle. And so the thing that confused me about Hannah's game, and that I said, weeks ago, who does she think she's beating? She needs to bring people to the end that she could beat. And honestly, it needed to be Sunday, and it needed to be someone that they just really wouldn't respect, like a Will, which again was a very tough haul to get to the end with. But, she needed somebody that she could do exactly what Adam did, give them no other reasonable opportunity to vote for somebody else.
I think the problem is those two people didn't exist. She was that person, I mean, Taylor, but that you can't get Taylor. If she could get Taylor all the way through the game, everybody would respect her. She would have been a different person. About her comments about, men versus women, I'm not in the year 2016 going to sit here and say, no, that's just, of course. Yes. Women are valued and treated differently than men. And I'm also not going to sit there in a season where, every pre-merge brute but one was a woman and say, no, these guys were totally cool with women and the different power levels and structures. I told people right away, a woman's not going to win this season because look at the jury. However, in Hannah's case, I think it's more because she was Hannah than it was because she was a woman. I think, she had done enough to implant an impression in people's minds that they weren't going to value her moves anyway. Especially when, and this goes back to what I was saying about Adam, the only move they were going to respect was remove the person everybody thinks is the best player here. And when she didn't do that on their timetable, then she looked bad. And that's kind of it. I don't think the woman part of it. Now, I could also see a scenario where she does it and she still doesn't get credit because of the woman part. I'm not going to deny that's a real thing. I just don't think that's necessarily the biggest thing. I think she had bigger problems to overcome that had to deal with herself.
Right. And I think one of those is that the closest bonds that I saw her having were with Adam and Ken, who were sitting next to her. And then Zeke, only one of those three was on the jury, and he didn't even vote for her.
Because she had betrayed him more than anybody.
Right. I mean, she had this flaky sort of, oh, yeah, when he proposed a plan to her, to the point that he knew she was no longer with him, and she knew that he knew she was no longer with him. It's, I want to have sympathy for her, but I think more than anything else, she blew up her own game
I
here.
just don't know how well you can recover being the jittery person that she was within this time. Now, I suppose the counterpoint is David did.
David.
And
Yes. And I think what helped there, though, is that David went through that very early in the game and then quickly, within the first week or two, asserted himself. She took way too long.
And look, if we want to talk genders, like, is she allowed to assert herself in that same way? I don't know. And I mean, again, this is a jury full of people who, like, couldn't, well, not full of people, with some people who, like, never forgave Jessica for making a move, for instance. So again, I'm not ruling out that that's a thing. I just think there's many other reasons why Hannah lost, and I think more of it is just like nobody took her seriously, and I think that's more her personality than her gender in this specific instance.
We should talk about the other person that no one took seriously, because Ken, I mean, my thoughts on Ken are that the only way he could have won the game of Survivor is by not being Ken.
Yep.
There's no way that this jury is going to reward him unless he's a completely different person. And that's such a weird realization for us, and probably also for him, because I don't think he can envision a world where, he plays a loyal game. He does the one thing that everybody says that he needs to do, is cut David. Oh, everybody's got to get rid of David. He's a huge target, blah, blah, blah. He does that and then gets nothing for it.
Yeah, and I will say, like, people are upset at Chris giving Adam the credit for that. And, I'm one of those people. But I get it. I get why you don't think that Ken came to that decision independently. If you hear Ken talk for like 38 days that he'll never vote out David, maybe you tend to believe him.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things. I'm more upset. It's like, why'd they assume that Adam? But again, it just gets back to what I talked to. Adam he talked the talk. He seemed like somebody who could do this. He knew what to do. He just wasn't very good at doing it. For Ken, as the years go by, people are just gonna be like, oh, that pretty dumb guy. He sucked at Survivor. I don't know if it's true. I think he had zero chance of winning this version of Survivor with this group of people. But I think he could have played the game that he played and won, like, last season. I think he could have won Cambodia.
That's what I was just going to say, is what about Cambodia? I think he actually could have won with this same game in Cambodia. And this comes back to something we say all the time, like, luck plays such a huge role in it. And, no one ever wants to say, hey, I got really lucky out there, because, everyone wants to take credit for their win. Like, Adam got really lucky that they had a jury that was not willing to reward Ken or Hannah for their games.
Yeah, and it's just this group of people view Survivor in a specific way that is completely antithetical to the way that Ken views it. And it's not like, Ken's some weird season 1 throwback. It's, that's easy buzz term. It's like, no, seriously, like, tell me what, how he wouldn't have won a jury that voted for Michelle Fitzgerald. Like, it would have happened, right? Like, it's not that hard. It's just, now, I will say, I'm not going to totally fault the jury. It's, again, fine that Adam won. It's not like Ken was a powerhouse or anything like that. And I think Ken also didn't play a good enough social game to make people understand him on the level that they needed. He made deep connections with allies, and I think he withdrew from a lot of the other people. But I think it's kind of hand in hand. One of the reasons why he withdrew from these people is they clearly didn't respect him very much. And the other thing that makes it hard for a Ken type, and we've talked about this, back when people were, saying that we were completely wrong about Jay voting out Michaela, and one of the reasons was he's made a big target for himself. Well, you kind of need to be a big target if people perceive you as a big target. If you do what Ken did, was basically he kind of played under the radar once the merge hit, and if you listen to his exit interviews, it's because he was a target. Now nobody respects you. It's like, if you're going to be the alpha and you look like the alpha, you better damn well be the alpha. Because if not, you're Mick in the final tribal council and everybody's like, you were worthless.
Right. And, if he really wants credit for turning on David, he probably has to make it a very public thing at that final tribal, or that, 4-person tribal council.
Yeah, or it needs even to be earlier than that, because you need to give people enough soak time for them to completely readjust their opinions of you. But I mean, I suppose the flip side is the reason why Ken was able to get this far is after a while nobody's viewed him as a threat to beat them.
Right. And he was loyal to Jessica and David the whole way through. didn't get either vote at the end. David did we're going to put our own attributions for what his reasons were, but he did the thing where he got voted out last. Ken betrayed him. He didn't vote for Ken. Maybe he'd always thought that Adam was the better player all along, but it's just, the coincidental thing. He got voted out by Ken, felt betrayed, didn't vote for Ken.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible it's two things, as we like to always say. Because, that always happens. I think one of the justifications for going to a 3-person jury is like, well, at least the blame could be, diffused amongst 2 people. Because it seems like and I'd like to see the stats, actually, of how many people voted for the person that voted them out at the very last moment. So, somebody get on that and let me know. Because it always just felt like the thing. It's just like, it's just too raw at that moment. And, I wouldn't deny David that. But he's also said in interviews, it's like, Adam felt like me, which gets back to my earlier thing. It's just like, they vote. If you can give the jury a chance to vote for themselves, and that sells as you, do it. Even if you need to lie to them in order for them to think that. Now, the problem is in modern times, it's too late to lie to them at Final Tribal Council. Final Tribal Council is just a meaningless show at this point. No decisions are made there. And, you can argue.
It's a show trial.
Yeah. You can argue historically, very few decisions have ever made there. And I believe that. But I think now, none. I can't think of. Nobody was picking between any of these 3. I mean, I should say nobody is an exaggeration. It's always possible one person sways, but we haven't had a 1-person vote in a long time, so it doesn't matter. Final Tribal Council is just a thing for us. I'm not saying they get rid of it, but decisions are made before then. Which, I mean, again, juries probably decide how they're going to vote before final deliberations. Like, this isn't exactly, a big flaw in decision-making processes. It's hard to turn opinions around on people. But just a final thought on Ken is just, this was the wrong season for him. But I don't think he necessarily played bad. He played fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think he played the best game that Ken can play. Like, I think anything else that he could have done just would be asking him to not be Ken. All right, so, I mean, I should also clarify that same sort of thing applies to Hannah. Like, if you're asking her to, be this assertive person that's like playing idols for somebody else, like that's not who she is. Her moves are going to be more subtle, but
I'll just say, quickly on Hannah, I think this was her best case scenario. I think she outperformed expectations. Because I do believe that she was an active person in getting her too near to the end. I think a lot of her moves were dictated on getting to the end. I don't think she'd ever be any better in a second or third chance. She'd probably be a little bit more confident, but she's still who she is, as you say. She did pretty well.
One thing I did like is that she did not, at that Final Tribal Council, let Adam frame her game for her. Like, that was an example of her being assertive. He tried that and she shut him down. Like, no. You don't describe how my game works. I tell you what I was doing. So props to her because she fought her best. It's just, the sorts of things that she was taking credit for weren't necessarily the things that the jury was super psyched to reward her for. She's claiming, hey, I took out Sunday. Well, Sunday is the nice lady who probably wanted to hear like, hey, I fought for you and I was loyal to you. So, oops.
Yeah, actually, full credit to her. I thought she did. She acquitted herself well at the Final Tribal Council, and in a way, frankly, that we had been undermining her chances of ever doing. We thought she'd fall apart at Final Tribal Council. She didn't. She stayed strong. Good for her. And I'll also say that we thought one of the reasons why she'd fall apart is that the jury would attack her. There wasn't a lot of attacking going on last night. It was par for the course for the season. Good people playing a game. No, major grudges.
And I think one of the other reasons that we thought she'd fall apart is that she frequently made these big dramatic shows of being really flustered at tribal council. And, she's so nervous and has so much anxiety and, I don't know how things are going to go. And she's shaking.
She needs medical attention for watching a challenge. Yeah. No, and that was my point. It's like, those impressions are still there. And I don't know if you can fault people for thinking you a frivolous person as a result.
Right. And that's the thing is I don't know that someone's going to see her as the mastermind, even if she did mastermind some moves. Like it's, the perception's already there and it's probably too ingrained, especially for the people that got voted out before that point. They're not going to see the quote unquote change in her.
Yeah. Final Tribal Council's too late. And,
far too late.
If you want an example, look at possibly Nicaragua, and that's just one thing I'll say.
That's not. So let's talk David, because a lot of people were very excited to tell us that, David is the best player of the season. He's going to win this thing. He gets to the end. He's beating all of you. Is that really true? Is that what you thought while watching this season? He was the best player?
Well, I'll say it's really true that all of those things, because those people were saying it, right? Like, I think he would have beaten anybody in the final tribal council, and apparently they did perceive him that way. I don't think they were just propping him up as like this target to take things off of their own back. Although, I mean, obviously some of that was going on. That's clearly what Brett was doing, but I think he was telling the truth. But it's like, he was alright. Yeah, I mean, maybe he was the best player of the season. I don't know if it was an all-time great. And I also wonder, it's like, what did he do in the second half of the season?
Well, I think it's kind of one of those self-fulfilling prophecy things, because once people start trying to put the target on David by saying, he's the best, he's the mastermind, he's going to win this thing, he's playing all of you. Once that keeps floating out there, if he gets to the end, he almost has to win, because the target was on them. Everybody's been saying all along, hey, David's going to win. Hey, David's going to win. If you didn't take him out after that, well, now I kind of feel like I have to reward David with the win.
Yeah, I told you what would happen if you didn't, and now I can't be a liar about it. And I will say, that's probably what helped build his reputation too, is people are saying it and he's sticking around, But it's like, well, it's probably he's sticking around because you guys aren't voting for him, and you're not voting for him because Adam, your amazing mastermind, couldn't string one more person to vote for him. Or Zeke couldn't do it, basically because of Hannah, Frankly, it's possible that when we look back at the season, the most influential player might have ended up being Hannah, now that I think about it. But yeah, and it's just so, there's that. And I'm like, again, I don't want to say he didn't play a good game. He did. He was a good game, and he won a couple challenges. It's the thing, everybody keeps listing the resume, and we always have to keep going back to, won a few challenges. Although the guy who won, 4 of them, nobody gives a damn about. And obviously with Ken, one of those challenges, actually, that might be a resume point for Adam, is that I helped Ken beat Jay and David in a challenge. Except that neither Jay and David went home that week, so whatever.
Right.
He flushed Jay's idol. But yeah, it's like, David, I think what happened with him is he exceeded expectations, so that made him look even better, and it's perception. David can talk about having social anxiety and overcoming it, and people will, his competitors will root him on and start tearing up. Ken talks about it, and they will roll their eyes because nobody wants to hear that a pretty guy, doesn't have the awesome life that we assume he has.
Right.
And, to be fair to David, he did more to overcome it, right? And I don't just mean, the bigger gap. He was talking to people. He was being a little more assertive, whereas I do think Ken kind of shrunk into himself and the people that he trusted, the people that passed his tests. But it's like, what did David do? People talked about him being amazing, but it was a lot of other people doing things for David in a lot of respects. I think he did well. I don't know if he was an amazing player.
Positioning himself as the kingpin against Zeke's side kind of set that narrative up, I think. Mm-hmm. And so once that narrative was there, like I said, it just sort of snowballed, and it worked out really well for him, because I do think that if he had survived that Final Four vote, he wins this.
Oh, easily.
He probably wins it 10-0. Just like Adam did.
I actually wonder if Ken's best chance of getting a vote would have been against David instead of Adam, because then he doesn't have the betrayal of David to possibly sour Jessica.
That's possible.
And maybe Taylor doesn't vote for David in the way that Taylor, has a relationship with Adam. Taylor doesn't even know David, but he wins regardless.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's all that close.
Yeah, it's also not in doubt at all. But yeah, and so what's interesting is, because I do love talking about things we were right, it all starts, I think, when he plays the idol for Jessica.
Right. Which I feel like there was some podcast that said, you know what, if you're a player like David, that's probably the sort of move that you have to make to get some sort of respect. I can't remember who those guys were, but they're geniuses. If anybody can figure it out, let us know.
Yeah, it's almost like just hanging around the bottom and being, viewed as this unnecessary hanger-on doesn't position you to possibly win the game. Like, what's her name? Hannah. That's the name. Whereas if you step out and force people to stop seeing you as the jittery nerd and instead being a player in this game, they'll start giving you credit even if you're not doing a whole lot. Because, I mean, and I don't want to say he did nothing. I don't want to sound like I'm denigrating him. I just kind of feel like for a lot of the second half of the game, David did what Ken did, but David did it with a bigger target on his back. But it was kind of the work of David, Ken, Hannah. That was what was controlling the game, is those three people and the fact that they were actually loyal to each other. And right. Kind of like Adam, David gets the credit because, again, well, he did have the target, but he spoke the language that the people who were making decisions this season thought. David was playing Survivor. He knows the talk, you know. Apparently this was a cast that everybody would sit around and talk about things like resumes and moves and all this stuff. Well, Ken's not in those conversations. David is.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot of people that played this game were very open about discussing strategy and how it's a move and I can beat you, but wait, if we do this, then I'm at a disadvantage. Like, it wasn't, hey, I got to go off into the woods and talk about this because I'm going to blindside somebody. Like, it was, you know, hey, we need you on this side for this vote because we need this person gone. It was, you know, a lot more open and fluid gameplay.
Yeah, and so I think that makes David look like a player. It's like, in a season of Survivor nerds, the Survivor nerd is king. And it's like, it's this bizarre world where an alpha like Ken is dragged to the end as a goat. Like, that was basically how I knew that Ken wasn't going to win. I never fully wrote it off just because, you know, the people who humiliated us last year by picking Michelle were sure about Ken. So I was like, just keep that door open for a second. But it's just like, these people would, like, Ken is not going to win because nobody seems all that interested in taking out Ken. And so clearly they don't think very highly of him. And that's just this weird season where your masterminds, your power players can be Zeke and David.
Mm-hmm. And, I guess, in the end, Adam somehow.
Yeah, one other note on Adam is one of the reasons why he was able to skate through his biggest mistakes in the middle of the game. It's because it kind of made him a goat in people's eyes for a few weeks there. Up and enough where it's like, oh, actually, he's not as goaty as these other people. But, like, I think one of the reasons why, like, Brett and Sunday wanted to work with him is like, hey, we could beat him.
Yeah. Did you see how everybody was hating him after that Taylor calling him out about the food thing? Yeah, we can take him out.
And then, credit to Adam, he was able to turn people's minds around. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm anti-Adam. I honestly think the things he did well are not the things that he was given credit for.
All right. Instead, let's talk about the big moves era of Survivor. Like, is this the reason that Ken and Hannah can't win? Like, is our future juries all going to be like this? Because, like you said, this jury was looking for a specific type of player and one that they relate to, and it was a lot of Survivor fans on that jury. I know that they loved this season. Probst talked it up. You can tell by the finale and the reunion that he loved this season. Are we going to get more of this? Is this now the path?
Yeah, I think Probst officially incepted what he's wanted Survivor to be for the past few years with this cast, and I don't think it's an accident. I don't think it's just this lucky thing that all came together. I think if you talked about honor and all of this stuff and didn't look like Ken, you didn't get cast. You talked about big moves and strategy and all the things you like, and remember that time that somebody voted out her mom? But you got cast, and the very next season is called Game Changers. Now, it's a fun joke for most of us, but that's right. What they're pushing, and I think this season is kind of the apex of that. Will that always be? No, juries decide what they want, and frankly, I think returnee seasons might gum up the works, because you get some people that are all into that, and then you get other people that probably are still more based on loyalty and stuff, because that's what it was like when they played. But I do think that it's what we can expect, and this is what they've been building towards post Tony Vlachos.
Yeah, it might be a good time for me to apply now, because apparently they don't really care if you are, all that entertaining. And as far as confessionals, they just want you to not have emotions and be willing to cut anybody's throat. So yeah, I'm there. I don't plan to form long-term social bonds with anyone.
And you can say, well, ever. What big moves did Adam make? Because, we spend time saying, no, it's like, it doesn't matter. it seemed like he was making big moves to an audience, a jury who wanted to see big moves. And in the absence of it, his were big enough, because the other ones, Hannah and Ken were like, I made strong allies, I stayed loyal, and I voted out people when I needed to. And they were like, Jan, now you did nothing. You are nothing. I'm not even interested in talking to you. So yeah, I think this is the culmination of that you could win for having big moves, even if you aren't good at them, even if they aren't successful.
This is all coming together for me because this is rewarding someone who kind of looks like they're good at doing work, but isn't actually doing much work. So it's right up my alley.
It's time, man. Submit that tape. I mean, frankly, you could probably use a break from the home life for 39 days.
You think? A little hectic here. All right, so let's get to some more of the final six. Let's talk about Brett because Brett, I thought, and I want to give him some credit. Obviously, he didn't win. He was in the minority for a very, very long time, and he was not able to pull himself into the majority. But I thought he did a very, very good job of keeping himself in the game and waiting for those cracks to form and trying to convince people that he was with them no matter what. Like, whatever went wrong, that's okay. I'm with you guys. And I thought that was really effective. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I praised him last week with Matt, and I'm glad you had this opportunity. And I do think he played a really effective, under-the-radar, social game. He sold loyalty as a big thing with him. And he was loyal enough to draw rocks for a guy who voted against him the week before. It's just, so with all that in mind, and I think these are highly valued things in Survivor. It's weird how disrespectful and openly disdainful he was at Ken for doing that, but better. I was like, Ken, tell me what you did. You didn't do nothing. It's like, what did you do, Brett? You have had no control in this game since Paul walked out the door. What did you do? What gives you the right to be all like, these people are idiots. Oh, they can't decide what moves to make. When it's like, your whole thing is laying back, hopefully nobody notices me, and convincing people, hey, I'm on your side.
Right. And you know what? Juries are not there for... They're there for judgment, not self-reflection. So,
and I mean, honestly, I think what it is he just didn't like Ken. And we saw that from way back when Ken is talking about texting you YOU instead of you, and he's just rolling his eyes. Basically, that was the go-to reaction shot. Ken says something, Brett's just like, God, get a load of this guy. The point where Ken's opening up about his struggles, and Brett's like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people had the perception of Ken as this weird guy, so it's not all that big of a leap. I can see it.
And I mean, I should say two things. I think he probably is kind of a weird guy, but I think that's what's interesting about him. He defies the expectations you would have about him, because I don't think he's snowing us. I do think he probably has social disorders. That's why he went off to live in the middle of nowhere for many years. He walks the walk, man. And,
that's right.
But and I think people just see that and nobody wants to hear that guy had troubles growing up. I don't.
Yeah, that's the problem is that's the package that you're presented as, like, oh, this guy should just be successful. He looks like he should be. And, he has a fairly healthy ego for someone that seems to have thought of himself as so marginalized earlier on in life.
A very, very healthy ego. I'm not denying that either. Of course, as I always say, I like that, so it doesn't bother me.
I really enjoy Ken. We'll talk more about him later, but instead, let's talk about the last person from the final six, Jay. Beautiful, beautiful Jay. He actually used that reward advantage that we thought was utter poison. What did you think about that?
Just symbolic of how amazing he was, because he played it so perfectly in every single way. Obviously, circumstances conspired to allow for it, especially that they crammed in a reward to give him an opportunity to do it. But he didn't steal it. He just got himself on it, right? He takes it, and then it's like, oh, no, I'm not stealing it from you, bro. You come too. But then he still dictates who the next person is, which is the other person he needed to talk to. So he gets himself a reward, he gets himself some food, he gets to talk to the two people he needs to plead his case to. I thought it was a pretty good case. It's a losing case, but it's the one you need to make, and maybe somebody bites. And I don't know how well you can trust the edit, but it sounds like David was at least considering it. Because it's like, okay, well, we all need to keep each other around because we're the targets. And, with the other 3 people there, that's absolutely true. And Brett is a threat in front of the jury. There were people on that jury that would 100% vote for Brett. So, yeah, no, it was amazing. And it's just symbolic of this guy was great. I'm sitting here like, David it was all right. I don't know if he was as great as everybody says he was. Adam, he's fine, whatever. I think Jay is great. I think he is the great player to come out of the season. And I'm not saying he played a great game. There were flaws, there were troubles. Not all the flaws that everybody else is saying, because I will stand by voting out Michaela to the day I freaking die.
Likewise.
And not just because I'm incredibly stubborn and rare that I will ever admit mistakes, but because the way it all played out. Try to prove me wrong, folks. Nothing went bad happened for him, and he came within a failed idol play of winning this game. And I don't mean the fake idol play, which we will talk about in a minute. I'm saying if he hadn't played his idol, at the final 7, Jake could have possibly won. The last 2 challenges that he didn't get to do, he could have won those ones.
It's possible. I wouldn't put it past him, at least.
So he was a very good player, and he was a great character. He is the star of this season, and I love him.
Yeah, and as you said, like, he played that advantage about as well as you can. It's a terrible advantage, but he played it in a way that no one can really blame him for. I mean, he kept up this facade of being fair by saying, oh, well, I'm going to bring you, David. And then he brings Adam, who's, you're my boy, we're rivals, I'm going to bring you.
Well, and also Adam had given him that. So it's like, I owe you.
Right. So he's keeping up like, oh, yeah, I played this reward steal thing, which seems kind of unfair, but watch how I use it in a very fair way. And, like I said, he made the best of a bad situation as far as, and he obviously needed the food because he was hoping that he was going to be able to win immunity after that, and food couldn't hurt. But the thing that, for me, he had built up so much goodwill from me for the rest of the season that I was convinced, like, nah, he's not going to fall for the fake idol thing. And then he did, and I was just like, I don't care. Like, at this point, I like him so much. I'm like, oh, well, you know what? You went out in an entertaining way. You were really, really cool about it, and not the least bit bitter. It was awesome.
Yeah, and speak to how I felt about him is when, it was clear that he was going to play it. Normally it'd be like, yes, this is going to be so funny. And I was like, oh man, don't do that to Jay. Jay doesn't deserve that. And then he flipped that situation around too. It was like, that was delightful. Yep. And then, like, to your point about the reward challenge, it's like he made the perfect strategic choices, but it doesn't even feel strategic. Nobody's like, oh, that guy's just putting us on, but really he did this. Everybody's like, oh yeah, what a good guy. He made the right decisions. Oh no, it was perfect. And to the point of, him getting fooled by the idol. For one, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was really convincing. Cause it did, I mean, as you've said, Jay knows what an idol looks like.
Right.
But it was a seashell, just like the other ones have been.
So more importantly, David knew what idols looked like, so he knew to put the markings on it. Mm-hmm. He knew, it got to do a seashell, and he knew that, it's going to be hidden inside of something. So he then wrapped it up inside of an actual immunity idol note. So, as far as fake idols go, not a bad job.
Yeah, like, maybe with more scrutiny and thought, you'd be like, oh, wait, yeah, this probably isn't it. Frankly, I'd probably play it anyway, just in case. When you feel like it has, like, oh, no, they just slightly changed the look of it. Right. But also, like, he's a guy looking for a miracle, and one presents itself. You probably don't question it that much, because, he probably had 4 hours. But yeah, and if an idol is going to fool anyone, that was the one. I think that might have been the most impressive idol ever. Mostly because, as you say, the advantages David had, that he knew what idols looked like and how they were delivered this season. And that it wasn't handed to him by somebody like, oh, I'm going to help you. It was like, I found it. So I understand why you'd get fooled, and I so didn't want him to. And then, yeah, the way he went out. No, he's amazing. I love him.
He's so cool about it. He's like, oh, Survivor, you got me.
Yeah, and then shakes everybody's hands like, yeah, if you don't like Jay, you just don't like Joy.
Right. Exactly. And I say this as someone who was convinced at the start of the season that I was going to get a few eye rolls from him and not much else.
Yeah, because he's not our type of person. And I've said this over and over again throughout the season. Like, he talks like somebody we wouldn't be interested in. But that's just his way of talking, but he's not an idiot. He's a smart guy, you know? He doesn't, yeah, you know, and there's a difference between him and Adam. Adam can more easily get, you know, respect from the beginning, from everybody, you know, making their preseason picks that they get right. It's like, that guy feels like a winner. He goes to the right school and all that. It's like, I don't, he wasn't as good at Survivor as Jay was.
I certainly was rooting for Jay harder than I was rooting for Adam.
Yeah, going into this episode, I was like, Jay winning would be the most fun outcome.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I was
either.
also rooting for it. Yeah.
All right, so we talked about the fake idol, and Jay finding it and playing it. What did it really accomplish other than kind of a fun scene?
I actually kind of wonder, like, don't you think that it had a greater potential for backfiring? Because
Yes.
Jay could have shown that to, you know, Brett or Hannah or anybody really, and convinced them that he was safe and they should vote elsewhere.
Yes.
Like, I kind of don't realize, or I don't really see what potential it offered for David other than making Jay think he had the right idol and not looking for the actual idol.
Which only pays off if you, in turn, find the actual idol.
Right.
Instead, Adam
exactly.
found it, you know? Like, and I think that's the thing. As soon as Jay finds it, he relaxes a bit. But, I mean, I don't know how much that materially changes it, especially because what if he found the real idol first? Then it doesn't matter, right? And again, and also, you don't know who's going to find it. But yeah, no, like, if that fooled Jay, it would have fooled everybody else, right? Especially if they're less intimately aware of what an idol looks like, you know? They'd have to squint across
like
a fire.
Hannah did not hold the idol for weeks and weeks at a time, and, you know, she'll see the note and she'll see the seashell that she's seen from 20 feet away when Probst was holding it up and be like, oh my god, that's an idol.
Yeah, no, I mean, the one thing in that scenario, I'm not sure what changes for Jay, because it's like, well, we're going to vote for you anyway because we need you to play the idol. But, yeah, it maybe moves things around because nobody wants to be the person he's voting against. So then everybody makes that person David, right? So, but I mean, I guess then Jay would still get the extra vote. So, I mean, I think probably the bounce back, if people are thinking clearly. That's the thing, though. Maybe fear is makes people do things a little differently. And if at the last minute they're like, "Oh my God, it's not going to be Jay. I better vote David out now, just in case."
Right, and that might have been the key. The showing at the last minute before tribal council might have actually helped him a little bit.
Although I think most people have been like, well, "Whatever, you're just voting out David, so who cares? I don't need to."
Right, it could be. Who knows?
But yeah, so I don't know if it had a great strategic value. I think it's something he wanted to do going out there. And frankly, when he wanted to do that, when he had that plan, he didn't expect to be the guy in contention to win the season. So It's kind of remarkable that he waited this long.
Speaking of something that didn't offer much strategic advantage, let's talk about the legacy advantage. After 36 days, we finally find out what exactly it does. And turns out it's basically just an immunity idol.
But weaker. It's an immunity idol, but less valuable than other leaning immunity idols, because all it can do is grant you immunity at one tribal council. That's it.
Right. And we aren't even sure that it's transferable or anything like that. It didn't say like, oh, you can play this on somebody else as far as we know.
Yeah. No, it'll say like, you know, if you want immunity, then you could give your immunity and then be immune. So that would double protect you. But
Sure.
But it couldn't be that, like, I know they're going after my ally today, and neither of us are immune, and I'll play for him, like David plays it for other people. Maybe not. We don't know that. But what we do know is, yeah, it's an idol that you cannot use as any kind of power throughout the game. You can't, you know, fake people out with it, keeping them voting for you, build alliances with it. You can't even really build alliances with the legacy advantage because A, you don't know what it is, so you don't know what you're offering, and B, as we discussed earlier, you kind of don't want people to know that, you know, stay with me, and if I get voted out,
right,
you get this thing, unless that person is Ken. I think actually Jessica was fine telling Ken, she made the right read there, that he isn't somebody that was going to burn her with him, but as we discussed earlier in this podcast, he's the only person like Ken in this entire season. So it doesn't have any of those other powers that an idol can have. It just protects you for one specific vote. Like, it's not even the last vote.
Well, and I think
you can't carry it with you to Final 5. It has to be day 36. Now, it's day 36, not Final 6. If this was a regular season, maybe that would have been Final 5 because, you know, they would have eliminated people a little earlier if somebody had quit or there'd been an evac or there hadn't been a cyclone or something like that. But yeah, so this is like the idol that was left out in the beginning of Tocantins. like that
Right.
Sierra found or didn't find or whatever. It's like you can escape one vote. Whatever, it's not
Great.
it's not worth
Yeah.
it's not worth us as an audience waiting 36 days to find out about, except that of course for about 32 of those we forgot it existed.
Yeah. I can almost see the intention here because I think the idea behind it was if you've got a season where there's a minority alliance just getting pagonged out of the game, that advantage could get passed down to the last member, or, maybe you're down to two and one of you is immune, the other person has that advantage, they can upset that majority. But it's so awkward of a tool and so forgettable. And I also think here's another downside that I don't know if they considered. Potentially, you could have that at a final five in, a normal season where you could have 4 people immune. You could have like 2 immunity idols still left. Someone wins immunity and then someone has this legacy advantage. You've got 4 out of 5 people immune and you have 1 viable target left.
Yeah. You pointed that out. And like, even if it's final 6, it's like, it could be 2 people. Or this was a season with 3 idols, So it's like, yeah, it's one or more idol out there because as soon as that they didn't change that at the last moment. That was sealed in the document. So this was an idol
Right.
always from the beginning. From day one when Jessica finds it when they're scrambling for supplies. That's when this thing started. Somebody randomly happened to grab it from the right supplies. So again, it's like less interesting than an idol. They didn't have to go out there and find it. Yeah, there could have been 3 people left. We don't know. I mean, you could probably reasonably assume that you're not getting to day 36 with all 3 idols still left in the game, but maybe. They did re-hide one of them. So yeah, that's not good. And I was just like, I think their thinking was, it'll be cool to have this thing to see if it can get passed along. And it didn't get passed along much, but that's fine. And to your point, maybe it's the begonging and you keep moving it forward. If that's the case, and it's 36 days, and it's finally here on day 36, and we're sitting there thinking what it has to be more than a single-use immunity. And I think, maybe they went with that because they've seen some of their past ideas become too powerful or completely flop. But 1 more immunity, it's like, okay. Like, he didn't even need it. And people will say, well, if it happened to be the person, it's like, yeah, well, what incredibly long odds are that,
Right. That's the problem, is it's such a low percentage chance that it's going to pay off in the way that you want it to. But to Survivor's credit, they try stuff all the time. If it doesn't work really well, they tend to get rid of it, and I think this one's probably gone.
Yeah, and I'll say, my complaint always has just been it's bad television. You can't expect us to remember that long. They're hoping, the best case scenario is that it's some, Scarlet Letter Kiss of Death, and that way it keeps bouncing around so much, then it stays current throughout. But, this might have been the way to do the extra vote advantage that failed for both Dan and Steven. And that, it's you don't have that when should I use it, when shouldn't use it sort of thing, that they can screw it up, and it's not public knowledge. People don't know that you have some kind of advantage because the nice thing about the legacy advantage is that it was secretive, whereas for both Dan and Steven it was out there and it made them a target. So it's like a way of doing some kind of extra vote without it killing the person that has it. So this would have been the time to try it. But now it's just like, hey, you get it, immunity, person who doesn't need it at all. And Jessica was killing herself on the jury. It's like, come on, if you were there, you wouldn't have needed it either.
Yep. So let's move on to the reunion show because it was actually pretty good. And I think one of the things that cemented for me that Probst actually really was excited about this season and this cast is he was very interested in talking to all of them, and that has not been the case for a long time.
Yeah, no. I mean, obviously not all, but, not everybody matters, but a lot.
Sure.
13 or so of them, I think Mark counted it out to be. And even furthering that, he had, all-stars sitting in the wings. It could have just so easily turned this, 15 minutes of the reunion over to them. Instead, he kind of rushed them out there in, less than a minute.
Right.
They didn't mess around in the audience and ask stupid questions. They didn't even talk to Adam's family in the audience, did they?
No.
Yeah, so, yeah. And I've always been a proponent when people complain about the reunion shows, all you can hope for is they don't suck as bad as some of the worst ones, because they all suck. I thought this was actually a good hour of television.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I mean, I think it put a nice bow on the season, give you a little bit of hype for next season, but just a just a little. And that's the thing is, he didn't spend, like, I feel like if this was a bad season or something, he would have spent the last 5 minutes of the show talking to Tony, talking to Ozzy, talking to Sandra.
They probably would have brought out more people.
Right. They were just like, hey, these are some of the people you're going to see next season, and scene.
Yeah. Sierra, tell me what you think about, what happened this season. And
when you voted out your mom.
Exactly that. People nitpicked the reunion because people live to make fun of Jeff Probst, and we're not innocent of that. I mean, you tried out a blog series of doing just the same. This is the best I think you can hope for. Is he asked people questions throughout the season. People are like, oh, why are we talking about this instead of strategy? This is a terrible venue to talk about strategy. That's right. What 2-hour-long podcasts are for. I don't mean this one. I'm like, these people, if you want to hear these people talk about the strategy, I guarantee you they will be in front of as many microphones as asks to do that. Unless that person's Ken. I'm not sure he's going to be on any podcast.
Oh, we should try to get Ken on our podcast.
Maybe. I mean, we've kind of written off doing interviews because A, we don't like the work, and B, I just don't know what we add. By the time we're ready to do one, they've already done the same interview 6 times.
So this is what we add. We ask Ken for his best albums of the 90s.
That's right. We can ask him what his top 5 Bright Eyes songs are, which is actually a question I just got on Twitter from Jeff Pittman, and I told him no, because you don't care, and I haven't had time. But for him and Guis, I'll say my top 1 Bright Eyes song is "Lover I Don't Have to Love," and we can talk about it in comments if you're interested. Maybe we should have Ken on.
You just talk about nothing related to Survivor. I think he would dig it.
Yeah. Well, I think we know somebody who's met him. I like the reunion as it was happening. It's like, hey, cool. Just kind of a nice little one last reminder of why I enjoyed this season and why I enjoyed these people. That's the best you can hope for. And I do think it was important, as much as Adam wanted to talk about it, to finish that story. Because guess what? Yeah. Most people who read Survivor have been watching this season not knowing that his mom was already dead. They don't all get these stories from. We are a different kind of audience, and it's not for us. It's great that it can still be for us. We can get what we want out of this show. But this is a network television that draws millions, and we need it to draw millions or it will cease to exist.
Mm-hmm. We need all those other people watching the show too.
Yeah, those people wanted to know. I think they had a right to know because it was a big part of the story. A right as much as Adam was comfortable discussing. And I thought he did a very good job. I really liked the point he made that it's like, yeah, I get that this is a story, but this is my life.
Right.
And he handled it very well. He's an earnest young man in ways that I don't think completely interest us, but I completely feel empathy for him.
Right.
And yeah, I like the way they talk to people. I know one thing that people are really up in arms about, and I just want to quickly touch about, is when they talk to Hannah and Ken. And it's like, oh, they're undermining Hannah and turning her just into this thing. It's like, oh, here's what I think happened. I think they chose that clip package of Hannah and Ken at the sunset because they knew they were giving one video package and one segment to the 2 runners-up. They weren't giving them extra time. And that was the scene they had of them together. And once that plays, Probst used that as the framing reference to start the conversation. But the rest of his conversation with Hannah wasn't like boy crazy stuff. It was about her growth. And frankly, if it was more insulting to one of them, it was the guy who was treated as the trophy that would symbolize her growth. It's just like, hey, amazing that you're so great now that maybe you could bag that guy. He was the object in this more than she was.
So he was treated like the Ken doll that he said at the very beginning of the season he hated being compared to.
Exactly, and it was. And frankly, if you doubt that, imagine if in Caramoan, and they're done talking about Cochran's big transformation, and says, hey, now that you've gone through this big confidence boost, well, how about you try and bag Andrea, right? So, that's kind of what it was framed as with Hannah, but it was, just a little fun thing. And I genuinely think it's just because it's like, okay, we're going to talk to Hannah and Ken, but we only have X amount of time, and this is how we can do it. Because, when he did talk to them both, and he did allow them to speak about themselves to some degree.
Yeah, they were a little marginalized, I thought. But, kind of...
They were marginalized by the people who were judging them.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They kind of earned that marginalization by getting blanked at the final tribal council. So,
and then it was weird that he didn't talk about Zeke coming back for next season. I honestly think he probably just brain farted on live TV.
Could be. I don't know. Maybe it's just
Because he wasn't in the clip package, right?
yeah, and it's possible that it was just the show was so stuffed as it was already, and he had to get through so many things. Like, maybe he just didn't go there. Who knows?
Because he got his moments. Yeah, no, good reunion. So just do that. That's all you really need to do, Survivors. Just kind of talk to the people about some of their stories, the characters that mattered, and all that extra stuff we don't need. I don't think anybody gets excited about the time they brought a girl to talk about rice, or even they bring in Boston Rob. And I say that as the internet's foremost Boston Rob fan. I didn't need to see him.
Oh, you don't think you're going to be sitting your grandkids on your knee one day and telling them about that time they gave Rodney a birthday cake?
Well, maybe. It's hard to say.
Oh, okay. Okay. I would have been personally hurt if you wouldn't.
Okay, so that's the show. That's what we saw this most recent episode. So now let's talk about the season. Because I don't want to. It might sound like we're down on it because we're saying, "Oh, this person wasn't as great," or "This person wasn't as great." What's your feeling as the season as a whole?
It was good. It was enjoyable. I think for me, the one issue that I had with it is I felt the majority of the cast was above average. Like they were all likable. I enjoyed watching almost all of them on TV, but it was thin on like stars, like the people that I'm like, oh man, I am drawn to that player. I'm so rooting for that player. I think really it had one, maybe two. I mean, Jay is clearly the star of the season for me. And I guess you would call Michaela the other one.
Yeah, and I think the issue is so Michaela's taken out early. And
exactly.
While Jay is like the star as in, star power, he wasn't the star of the season. Like, it wasn't his story, and they could only make it so much about him without it being weird, right? Like, he didn't really have control for the entire post-merge scenario.
Right.
So, and now people are like, because he gave... No, he didn't! Michaela wouldn't have changed anything materially.
I like how you set up that straw man right there. Good job. It's been so long since we've seen the good straw man in this podcast.
I doubt it's been that long. It was probably 20 minutes ago.
It's just that I've been gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I think Zeke has that potential, but yeah, he had flaws in his game, and again, removed. He had no real role in the end game. So I think I see that, but I'll say I really dug this season. It was fun to watch. I liked all these, and the biggest feature is the thing that everybody keeps talking about is. It was a bunch of people playing and not penalizing people for playing. Yeah, we've had some issues we talked about this season about penalizing people for not playing the way they wanted to play. But yeah, there was no nastiness. The big moment of nastiness is like, Zeke and Brett saying a few mean things at a tribal council once. Right. That's nothing.
Yeah, if that's the extent of the mean on the season, I'm like, damn, that is top tier as far as watchability and like enjoyable players.
Yeah, some people keep trying to bring it back to Taylor. It's like, Taylor took all his L's with a lot of, with a smile. The same vacant smile he did everything with. Adam was the poor winner in those scenarios. Taylor was fine when he lost. He sat there and let Adam talk his ear off, right? Yeah, there's none of that, and it was refreshing. And it's just like, I mean, frankly, as I'm about to say this, I realize I'm probably the person that would have voted Adam at the final tribal council. It was good. This is what I want out of Survivor. People playing Survivor and not making it a value judgment. And people say, well, then why can you defend Ken? I don't get the impression that Ken was judging anyone for not playing by his code. It's just his code.
Will.
Well, honestly, I don't think Will failed the test until Will said that Ken's name was on the blog. I think that's all that was.
How dare you suggest that Ken does not have a set-in-stone moral code that Will violated?
Ken was 100% fine with everything Will was doing until I was all like, oh yeah, they're voting for you, dude. He's like, ah! And frankly, that probably tracks with some of the things he said in his exit interviews. That it's like, as soon as he heard that he was a target, he'd do things. Anyway. And I just loved that. I just like, let's play Survivor. And it's not just like they were all game bots. I think there was a high amount of game bots, and that factors into, Adam's, overwhelming popularity amongst the jury. But there was a lot of human moments, and they were allowed to have those human moments because it wasn't all this morally, this person betrayed me, I hate this person, or this. It's just kind of like talking. I thought it was refreshing that people could just talk about voting people to their face. And
Yep.
bravo to Adam for that. He was the best at it. So I mean, who knows with rankings, all that. I do think there's things from holding it back from being like the elite tier.
Yeah. I mean, just off the top of my head, I would probably put it in the 10 to 15 range. I'll have to go look at the ranking that I have already. But I mean, it was very good. I would say it was above average season.
I think it's an upper third, which, now moves out of the top 10 when you get that. And I'll say, yeah, it is tough because we've recently redone our rankings. That 10 is tough to crack.
It is. That's why I was saying 10 to 15.
But yeah, I enjoyed it thoroughly throughout. The worst episodes of this season were just kind of, that was all right. There was nothing I hated, So other than women and minorities constantly getting voted out, that wasn't so cool. So yeah, I feel good about this season.
Yeah, and as you said, I think the real issue with it cracking that top 10 is just that's a really elite group of Survivor seasons.
Many of which we've had in our lives longer, right?
Right.
I think you and I probably only have 2 seasons from the past, 7 in our top 10s. So
yeah, and even then, I think we were hesitant about both of those. Are we overvaluing these because it's so soon? I think time has borne out that we're not, but
maybe 3. I think we have Philippines as well. But yeah, so yeah, good season. I'm really happy with it. It was great to watch. So then the conversation we always like to have, how do we rank Adam as a winner? I'll say we don't rank, more just kind of whereabouts do you think? And maybe we just might, in this very long off season we have, let everybody determine how this season stacks up to others in a certain way.
Oh, see, I like that because it means that we don't have to do the work of ranking ourselves.
Yes. I'll just say he's fine. It probably bottom third, which again, that doesn't necessarily an insult. There's probably other people that people think of highly that are in that bottom third. That's just means 22-ish people might be better. It was fine.
Reddit is just waiting for you to say Chris's name is down there.
But it's in the bottom third, absolutely.
Underrated god of Survivor, Chris Daughtry.
Chris was able to get out the people he wanted at the end instead of just talking about it. I'll give him that.
Fire take right there.
Where does Adam's win kind of generally leave you?
I mean, again, I don't do the winner ranking thing, but I'd say he's at least in the bottom half. I might even go along with you and say bottom third. Just because I don't generally rank them. I don't think I ever have.
No.
I don't know off the top of my head, I would have put so-and-so at 20, so he's better or worse than that person. I wouldn't be quick to rank his win highly. I'll say that.
Yeah. He did what he needed to do once the opportunity presented itself, but kind of weirdly that opportunity presented itself at the final 3.
Right.
All right, so something we can rank and feel much more comfortable rank. Who are your 3 favorite players this season?
J, and J.
That sounds like a law firm.
Yeah, he's probably in Florida. It is. He's far and away my favorite of the season, just because. And I don't know how much of it is that I had such low expectations that he just completely exceeded. I think he's genuinely good TV. And I think part of my issue with some of the people in this cast is they felt like there was a facade, like there was this act they were putting on. And Jay, to me, does not seem at all like an act. Like the Jay that we got on the show is the Jay that you would get if you met him on the street. Like, I don't know that, Adam is the same in real life. I don't know that Zeke and Hannah are the exact same as they are in confessionals where they're putting on this, and I hesitate to say that they're putting on an act, but to me, it just didn't always feel genuine when they were talking to the camera. Jay did. Jay felt legit. And I'd say, so as a second favorite, I'll say Michaela for mostly the same reason.
Yeah.
Like, I think whatever you saw of Michaela, that's Michaela, and it's entertaining and it's enjoyable, and she is who she is. She might not be the best Survivor player. I'm pretty convinced she's not, but she was one of my favorite players to watch this season. And as a third, I'll go with Ken, just because I love his specific blind spots and his weirdness and his definition of humility. And, this for the same sorts of reasons I enjoyed Andrew Savage, I enjoy Ken.
Yeah, Jay and Michaela for me as well, easily. And one thing, yeah, just throughout, like Jay just constantly just made me smile. I like that dude. And
Yep.
it's interesting is that he called that out as one of his great strengths in the preseason. It's like he can get people to just feel like they like that dude and relate to them in a way. And yeah, absolutely, 100%. Good, good acknowledgement of your own kind of skills and stuff. Like I even just think back to early like Gen X versus Millennials challenges where he's going out to the water to get creamed by Chris, and he's like, "Hey, Hulk, and dap it up." Like just like that's just who he is, and it's delightful. And it's not just that he's like this fun-loving guy. He's also a strong competitor. He also plays to win. I'm not sure where it ranks, but one of the easy moments of the season is he stares dead ass into Michaela's face after voting her out.
Oof, such a good moment.
Yeah, everything you said about Michaela is true. She's just, such a concentrated dose of entertainment to the point where it's been so long ago, you might forget, like, what like when she's beasting in challenges, when she's saying bye Felicia to know his Figgy's gone. Like, so much great stuff with her. Zeke is my third. He talks the talk that I like to hear. Even, I get what you're saying about him. I don't mind that level of artifice to some degree, because he's funny in the way he does it. And frankly, he's even better in longer confessionals that you'd watch in bonus scenes. I would always watch the Zeke ones first.
Okay. Well, and so you might have a different perspective because I actually didn't tend to watch too many bonus scenes. So there you go. Maybe if I had seen those and, didn't get the edited down bits of Zeke and got to see him being himself more, maybe then I'd pick Zeke in my top 3.
I mean, again, I don't even know if it's itself. If there's some performative level to it, I enjoy the performance, right? And I just think he was the way he would observe people and, sometimes cut them down in funny ways. Yeah, that's my bag, baby. So yeah, easily. And at the time, he was my favorite, but, Jay has leapfrogged him. All right. Similar, but maybe perhaps a little different. Who would you like to see return? And we should clarify that, it's not the same question as who will return, because frankly, the bar is whatever. Yeah, anybody can return ever anyway.
Right. And we already know that 2 of these people did return.
Yes.
And will return next season. So yeah, Michaela would be one, and she is returning next season. And Zeke is obviously also returning next season. But as I said, I don't know. I liked Zeke. There were definitely moments in this season where I was like, oh yeah, I'm enjoying watching Zeke on my TV. So I wouldn't say like I disliked him. He just didn't crack my 3 favorites.
How much of this perception now is just because you didn't like him at the jury?
No, I thought he was fine on the jury. I mean, he hammed it up a little bit, which is fine. At the point where you're in the jury, I don't think I mind it anymore.
No, I just mean like his question, like, talk about how you changed the game, blah, blah, blah. I didn't love that, but plenty of my favorite players in the past have had dumb jury questions and performances. I just let it wash off.
I think that was a very specific shout out to a certain podcast that he enjoys. And
yes,
hey, listen, if people want to start shouting out podcasts in their final tribal questions, please do so.
Problem is, nobody who will ever be on the show listen to our show first. Yeah,
right, exactly.
People listen to it after they've been on the show.
It'd be funny if like either Emma or I got on the show and even we didn't do it.
Well, it's tough to do, right? It's like we'd have to. Well, you know what? You guys would throw like it can be 2 things. Other memes, right? Sure. Our best bet is returnees, right? Because survivors do listen to this show, just not they've never heard of it until they've gone out there, right? And then they search people, anybody and anyone talking about themselves.
Oh, you know what? There is someone coming back next season that definitely listened to our podcast.
Excellent.
I don't think he's going to shout us out, though, because he's much more interested in shouting himself out.
I'll let you continue, but I'll talk a bit. Yeah. Obviously, I'm cool with Michaela and Zeke both coming back. Obviously, we want Jay back. I don't just want Jay to come back once. Like, if he's like a lifetime Survivor player, I'm cool with that. He, the other 4-timers and all that are so old and showing their age. Like, he can keep coming back, and I think he could be amazing with another comeback. I'm glad he's not coming back right away.
Yes.
I think for one, you do better when you have a little bit of time away from it. It's like a balance, maybe not too much time, but enough time. And for 2, I think he might end up getting overshadowed by others that are similar to his type. And I don't want that. I want when Jay comes back, I want him to be one of the stars of the season, not like the fresh young buck trying to make it happen.
Right.
I'd also like to see Michelle back in the same way that I think she's somebody who still has something to offer. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I built this myth, and it's like, enough with the dragon stuff. Like, you don't need a gimmick, okay? Maybe you feel that way because she's been gone for so long. But I thought she was delightful in Ponderosa videos where she, would greet everybody with a drink and make sure she could watch how horrified they'd look in in the mirror, and frequently got drunk against type.
Nice.
So I think she's somebody that could actually do something more. Whereas I feel like a lot of this cast, I've seen enough of Adam. I don't know why Adam would want to come back. How could any Survivor experience equal this? Maybe he'd want one a little independent of, the mixture of worry and grief that he was going through. Although I kind of feel like if he did go back, it would all flash back to him, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Just bring back all those memories.
I think David had his journey. Maybe it'd be interesting to see a David through that jury play again. But I think it's tough for a David type to sneak up on people twice. It was kind of the question I had whether David could win this season. Is like, can Cochran win when everybody knows that you're the threat? Right. For that long, because it's tough to win your way out at that point. Who else you got?
Well, Jay, which we already covered. Yeah. So that's Jay and Michaela were really the only ones that I was going to single out. But I wanted to say, though, that because this is, as I said, almost all around an above average cast, I think, a lot of players that come back for returnee seasons where I'm like, meh, if you take almost any player from this season, you brought him back for a returnee season, I don't know that they'd be the player I'd be most excited about, but I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, I wouldn't be disappointed if you brought back, Brett even, or like Chris, or Sunday, or Michelle, or just any of these people. I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm fine with that. Like, it wouldn't make my skin crawl. It's not like if you're bringing back Troy or something from One World, the worst. I hope they never bring him back.
No, that'd be a huge mistake. I'd be okay if they bring Ken back. I suspect he's probably popular with a key demo.
You think?
Yeah. I'm not like, Ken. It's got to be Ken. But sure, bring back Ken. I'd be interested to see. I think everybody would want to align with him, right?
Yeah, and I think the problem is that, when you preach the big moves narrative so much, and Ken does, well, maybe, maybe when Ken comes back, maybe he absorbs that and he's like, okay, I gotta be a different Ken, and I gotta take people out early, and I'm doing it for my daughter, and maybe he's a different guy. But then if he's a different guy, I don't know that I'm excited to see him.
I think with Ken, there's a high chance that he'll have the Rupert Bonham, buying his own hype type thing. Probably not to the same level, because there isn't as much hype as when Rupert played Pearl Islands. Like, there's never been as much before or since. Right. But diminishing returns, he's heard too long for too many people of how amazing he is, and now he's going to talk that way and destroy our beautiful Ken. Jeff Pittman already calls him Handsome Rupert.
Cut so deep.
I know. One player I think you could probably expect to see back is Figgy. I think they probably liked what Figgy gave them, that energy and the antagonism. I don't need to see it again, but if we did, whatever, it's fine. She's poor man's version of Abby Maria. But frankly, maybe a more tolerable one for me.
As someone to fill that specific role, it's one of those sort of things where I'd be like, okay, that's fine. I see you're going to have that role. You picked Figgy. Okay. I'd accept.
Okay, so I think that wraps up this season. We got a long time till the next one. Next one's in March.
Oof. So long. Nice long break for us. Well, potentially.
Yeah, so we are going to take a break because we like to. We're not as addicted to Survivor as some of the people who listen. I like to take breaks from it when it ends and then get right back into it big time. And also, families keep us busy, but we will be doing stuff over the off season because what we don't really want to happen is to lose touch with all of you. So we will want to give things that people can comment and come back. We will have a post next week, or maybe it's this week, depending on when this podcast posts, that will still be about this season. We are exploring different options of maybe some guest posts. And if that's something you're interested in, give us a holler.
Yeah, if you want to pitch us something, whether it's something that you want to write or something that you want us to do, send us an email, purplerockpodcast@gmail.com. Leave us a comment on our site, which is purplerockpodcast.com. and let us know because, maybe we do it, maybe we don't, but we're always interested in hearing. We've gotten a couple of different proposals so far that we're weighing.
Yeah, and the one thing we teased last week, I think many people figured out, one thing we are definitely doing in this offseason is Matt's experimental descent into madness, a.k.a. a Nicaragua watch. Matt has never seen Nicaragua. He is finally going to bite that bullet. Now, for those of you who might think it's fun to see John and I, who have basically built our brand on hating Nicaragua, watch it. Nah, I ain't doing it. Sorry, it ain't gonna happen.
It was funny, too, because we brought it up in the staff chat. It's like, okay, so do we have to watch it? Because if so, I'm out. Like, nope, not interested at all. And that's the nice thing about this being our podcast. We don't have to.
I mean, honestly, come on. What are you going to get from me that you expect? Some kind of turnaround in opinion? No. I would double tap. Frankly, even if, normally, if I change my mind, I will admit to it. I won't admit to being wrong, but I'll admit to changing my mind. Too much of my entire identity online is built on hating this season. I couldn't change my mind. The good news is I wouldn't have to. It sucks. It's terrible.
Yeah, if anything, we would just go back and we would get like notes on the specific ways in which it disappoints us.
Right, like right now we just kind of have this vague notion because the way we watched it back then, and basically I know it's horrible because it made me hate Survivor and want to quit. Nothing's ever done that before. Whereas now we would have this litany of lists of things. It's like it'd be like I'm actually interested in living it through with Matt, and he has a plan that will hopefully show just the emotions. Now it'd be weird if he turns out thinking it's not so bad, and then we have to disown him.
He's gone rogue.
Yeah, but I hope it just brings back some memories, kind of like how Emma's current watch of Friday Night Season 2 is like, oh yeah, there's even more crappy things about it that I forgot. So that is a thing that's going to happen. Another thing that we are going to do is every year for the past 2 years, we've done a bracket around March. Now, since we're waiting all the way, and March is going to be when an all-star season starts, I think we're going to bump that one up again. So, up a bit. So we might start that one maybe in February or so. Keep an eye out for that. I know people have asked if we're going to do a watch of such a terrible season, maybe we could do a good one. We're considering it. We'll just say that. But honestly, I don't know if there's enough time. So look for the Nicaragua watch in January. Something to look forward to. Just in case you thought the bad stuff was getting behind in 2016. Nah, man. Nah, 2016 is going to look like a delight compared to 2017. Yay!
Yeah. Instead of going out with a bang, we go out with a downward spiral.
Quickly, do you want to shout out the winners of our fantasy games?
Not really, but I will because
you weren't one of them.
I was top 4 at least. So we do our Survivor fantasy leagues every year. We do pick 4 game where you can pick 4 survivors. You see how you do at the end of the season. We post the results. They're on purplerockpodcast.com right now. You can see how everybody did. If you didn't play this season, please play next season because we will post. Once the cast is officially released, we'll post that. We'll put something up saying, hey, draft your team now. So look for that and please do it. And I'm not going to shout out everybody that made next season's Champions League because you know who you are. And also I'm one of them and Emma's one of them and Mark is one of them. So I did just shout out 3/10 of that league. Anyway, we might do a draft for next season for that Champions League a little early because I'm sure some spoilers will leak out for this season, and I don't want that to taint our drafting process.
All right. So we will be doing something new next year. When I say we, I basically mean you guys, but I help out here or there with the Outcasts League. It will be a little different because that's what we'd like to do with that silly league is different stuff all the time.
It'll be like a what would you call it? Maybe like a game changer?
It'll be a game changer for sure. Speaking of game changers, no, that's lame, isn't it? But this is the part of the season as we wrap things up. We just want to talk about the people who read us, who listen to us, who comment with us. We frequently say that the best part of this whole thing is our commenters, which isn't just kissing up, although, yeah, it's kissing up. It can be two things. Honestly, I think it's the thing that sets us apart. A lot of what we do is similar things to done on one of the 1,000 other Survivor sites. I mean, obviously, no one could ever get such crystal clear and amazing analysis as what they get from us. We clearly don't overlap with any other podcast out there, but I still think the main feature is our commenters.
Sure. And which commenters would you like to single out as quickly as possible?
Quick thank you to, it's a lot. There's so many. I'll apologize in advance if you comment and I not mentioned you, but I actually ran stats. So just comment more and you'll get this next year. So quickly, shout out to Barbara Anderson, Kemper Boyd, Sharkules, Hornacek, Diego Armando, Alicia Swift, Assistant Dragonslayer, Dr. Van Nostrand, Guis, Saturday Night Palsy, Black Dynamite, Corndog Shuffle, Violena23, Mike Hirsch, Roswolf, Pretty Boy Probst, The Sky is Falling, Max Jets, Ms. Sweater Fan, Spicy Mayo J. Simpson, Aubrey's Winter Edit, Sad Lil, Emin Scout and BK, Ms. Wooza, Something Quirky, Hector the Well Endowed, Count Bolitzula, Adam B, XL Pelican, Disgruntled Goat, Crappy, Rhea, Hurley Tennis, Turgid Lagoon, Prom King, Sadie, Kent McKay, Side Character, Dutch, Tokens, Alcanara, Balderstone, King of Tonga, Jersey Luck, HBO CEO of Game Changers, Storm of Cuteness, Ms. Fjordstone, Nearly Nina, Brian Gold, and...
Anyone else? Feel like there's another...
Other Scott shout out!
Nice. All right. So, quick plug for next season, which is the Game Changer season. Hype posts are coming back. Just teasing it now because I cannot wait to write them. So if you liked my hype posts, there will definitely be some for next season.
You can find those and all these lovely people I just mentioned on our website at www.purplerod. It's tough talking after you've just done 50 names.
Sure.
www.
I'm going to submit that list of you saying those 50 names really quickly to like some local psychiatric board and be like, this guy's just got this word salad thing going on. I don't really know what's wrong with him.
I know. It feels weird saying those things, man. Come on, people, just use your real name like me. PurpleRockPodcast.com. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. I am on Twitter at PurpleRockAndy.
I am at PurpleRockJohn. The show is at PurpleRockPod. If you want to follow the people that we roped into working with us, it's Purple Rock Emma, Purple Rock Matt, and Purple Rock Mark.
And if you'd like to submit an email, that's purplerockpodcast@gmail.com. And I think there's only one way to end this season.
Hit the music.